Okay, let's dive right in. I want to talk about a single, incredibly powerful story that's been woven through all of history. It connects a promise made thousands of years ago to a mission that is still very much unfolding on the frontiers of our world today. See, this isn't about some new church program or a department. It's about a grand narrative, a central plot line that God has been writing since the very beginning. And this story, it has one huge, burning desire that his name would be known and glorified among every single people group on earth. So, to really get our heads around this, we've got to tackle a really common misunderstanding about what this whole idea of missions actually is. For a lot of us, we kind of see missions as this optional activity, right? A niche interest for a few, special Christians. But what we're looking at here suggests a totally radical shift in how we see things. What if missions isn't just part of the story, but it's the entire storyline of the Bible, the central plot, not a subplot? And believe me, this isn't some new idea somebody just cooked up. To see it, you gotta go way, way back, right to the beginning of the whole narrative. Just look at how consistent this mission is over time. It starts with this incredible promise to one man, Abraham. And it wasn't just for him, it was for all the families of the earth. You see it echoed again and again through the prophets, who were constantly calling Israel to declare God's glory to the nations. And then, boom, it culminates with Jesus himself, who gives the command to make disciples of all nations. This isn't a side project, it's the absolute heartbeat of God's plan. Okay, so now let's jump forward a bit and see how this thread gets picked up from the biblical era and carried forward into history by some really key figures. And the Apostle Paul, he is absolutely pivotal here. He got something really profound, that this story was meant to cross every cultural and linguistic barrier. He didn't settle down where the message was already known. No, he was all about running towards the edges, to the places that had never, ever heard. His ambition was the frontier. Fast forward a few centuries, and you've got this shoemaker, William Carey, who we now call the father of modern missions. He looked out at a world that was largely untouched by this story, and he basically challenged a church that had gotten pretty comfortable. He reignited that same passion with this incredible call to action, to once again attempt great things by taking this message out to the unevangelized world. And then, getting closer to our own time, there's a strategist named Ralph Winter who just pulled the curtain back even further. He helped the world see that it wasn't just about reaching countries, but entire peoples. He sounded an alarm that there were thousands of distinct ethnic groups with no church and zero access to the story. And that insight, it fundamentally changed everything. Building on that incredible work, Rebecca Lewis helped us see an even deeper level of need. And this brings us to a really crucial term: frontier people groups. Now, you may have heard of unreached peoples, but this goes a step further. This is the frontier of the frontier. We're talking about groups with basically zero believers and no one actively there working to share this story with them. They are completely and utterly cut off. And that brings this ancient, powerful story directly to our doorstep, to the chapter that is literally being written right now, the one we're living in. And look, the scale of this, it's just staggering. We're talking about 2 billion people. And I want to be super clear about this. These aren't people who have heard the story and said no thanks. For the most part, these are people who have never even had a single chance to hear it in the first place. And this right here reveals the huge strategic crisis we're facing, what's been called the Great Imbalance. The overwhelming majority of our resources, our people, our attention, it all goes to places that already have a strong church. And why is that? Well, maybe it's just human nature to stick with what's comfortable. But what that means is that a tiny, tiny fraction goes to those frontier people groups, the places with nothing, no church, no access at all. But, and this is so important, there is some really hopeful news here. A new strategy is starting to take shape, one that focuses on the highest leverage points. By concentrating our efforts on fewer than 300 of these mega frontier people groups, these groups that have massive regional influence, the belief is that we can see a breakthrough that actually touches entire civilizations. So what does this massive, ancient, global story have to do with you? Well, everything. This is where it gets personal. See, the big idea here is that when you become a part of this faith, you don't just get a personal salvation story. You get written into this story. The very same narrative that started with Abraham, that flowed through the prophets, that was fulfilled in Jesus and carried by Paul, Carrie, Winter, that same story has now landed right at your feet. And hey, joining the story doesn't automatically mean you have to pack your bags and move across the world. It's really a call to open your heart right where you are. You can pray, really pray for these frontier peoples. You can send and support those who do go. You can give financially. You can mobilize others in your community. You can speak up for them. And you can simply care enough to learn more. So this is really the bottom line. The story isn't over, not by a long shot. The final chapter for thousands of people groups has yet to be written. And the incredible invitation on the table is that there is a role, a specific part that has been written just for you. And so it all comes down to this one very personal question. This isn't just about history or theology anymore. It's an invitation. Faced with the unfinished task and the call that has echoed through generations, the question is simple. Will you join this story?